Arthaus. All right, cool. But hold on, let me get this. Okay, we're going live. Okay, cool. Yeah, the weird thing. Okay, first of all, this is our house. Asad's here. Cool. We're talking already. So the thing is that like good, like that word, good, right? There's no other little programming phrase that we use in our whole time with language speaking to each other where we just instantly assort to that one, go to one word, right? When somebody asks us how we are, that's an opportunity to be like, my ventures are going really good, blah, 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 really connect with them. But we just want to say, good, good.
Yeah.
And just like, it's almost like that just means like, don't talk to me. It's not even saying like, I'm doing well, right? That's something. It's just, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
It's kind of I think before like this PC stuff, I think it's kind of this weird thing where people don't really connect. People don't really connect on a personal level and like a more intimate level. And it is kind of that. It's like, leave me alone, let me do my thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's also like a fear of intimacy. It's either like a fear of like it was a fear of intimacy or just like this fear of like strangers, and now it's become this fear of like some people just don't want to say stuff because they're worried they're going to offend somebody.
Yeah, and the fear to offend is so much worse than the offense itself.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, and the other thing, like the context is so key. Context is everything with it. Like if you read our texts, like we would both be arrested for hate crimes and like being like into the gulag immediately. But as you can see, everyone, right now we're talking to each other, right? Right? We're happy. We're good. We're chilling, right? There's no hate here. We're just two bros having a chat, right? Context is everything, and when you don't, when you go out of your way to, even though the context is right in front of you, when you go out of your way to take it so literally and destroy the person because of that, that is completely on the instigator. It's not an actual issue; it's a created issue.
Yeah, it's like people definitely find, like, they'll grab something out of thin air and materialize it, and then just to get offended. And I think that kind of speaks to, and this is something that people don't want to, a lot of people don't want to admit, but it speaks to how little attention people pay to themselves.
Yeah.
Most of these social justice warriors, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, anyone who kind of has like a very reactive personality to this kind of stuff, to the point where they blow it up and expect like, hey, like this is something that shouldn't happen at all. They, more often than not, they don't realize how deep their programming is and how much they're being influenced by, just the marketing machine.
Everything is programming.
Yeah. And it's like most people just don't stop and think. It's like, what do you actually want? What do you actually want for yourself? Not what like so-and-so told you, not what your parents said, not whatever. And I think that I don't rip on, like, there's some guys on Twitter in our corner who kind of, they rip on feminism a lot. And I understand where they're coming from to an extent. I think some of them do a little much, but I think one of the most interesting experiences of my life is like open, candid conversations with friends my own age, like mid-late 20s females, who've told me, they'll say it quietly, they won't like blast it, but there's so many of them who've said that they reject feminism. And I asked a bunch of them what it was, and almost across the board, this is probably like 8 or 9 girls at this point, which is, it's not statistically significant because it's, but I think it's
anecdotal. It's all anecdotal, but like, yeah.
It's noteworthy, and a lot of them, they kind of went through that. They said that they were super into like everything, just everything feminist, whatever, growing up, and then a couple of years ago they kind of they just all kind of stopped and thought about it, and they were like, you know what, I don't like some of this stuff. I'm okay with some of it, but a lot of it I'm not. And now it's to the point where a bunch of them are like, that's just not for me, because they saw what it was, and they really went down and thought like, what do I actually want? And whereas like if you take a lot of people who are pro whatever movement, they don't actually stop on an individual basis and think, how do I feel about this?
Yeah, I was talking with this guy Logo Daedalus on Twitter, and he sparked a thought, which is like, ideology itself it's for people that don't have imagination. It's for people that haven't given thought to what they want, their things and whatnot. Because I should like 3 years. I'm obviously only 20, so my brain is still not even fully developed yet. But like 3 years ago, I was very ideologically possessed by the whole MAGA culture. Now I'm like, I like some things, but I've definitely branched out into so many different areas now to where I'm mostly just completely apathetic to politics now
Yeah.
in all but the most like local ways. And I take what works and then I move on. And if something, if it goes against the doctrine or whatever, I really do not care. Like it's not gonna, the only thing that's keeping you to doctrine is yourself.
Right. It's kind of funny. It's like I think that's a saying or some bumper sticker thing or whatever, but it says my karma ran over my dogma. I don't know if you've seen that. And I
Yeah.
was like, that thing is, the more I understood it and the more I kind of see, I'm like, that's a really good way to put it, because that's essentially what's happening here. Where one is like you stop, and like karma is like you going inward, and being dogmatic is like pushing whatever you think you believe as this universal truth to everybody else, and you don't get anywhere with it. You don't grow. You just kind of get. I mean, you probably find yourself feeling pretty empty and unsatisfied.
Have you ever had an experience where you realized you were like either typing a tweet or you were about to have a response and you stopped yourself and you're like, why am I even doing this? Like, why am I even responding this way? Why am I even like, why did this thought even come to my head in the first place?
Yeah, that happens. It happens quite a bit in the past. And there's been times where there was actually something happened earlier today. Um, I forgot what I wrote some tweet, and I think Naval retweeted it, which was nuts. And so I just had all these like mentions coming in, and it was I think I said I'll help you if you ask, but I won't ever
I'll
teach.
teach you something like that. Yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah. And so the whole point of it was like I was coming at it from a perspective of like seeking versus preaching, because I've had so many people who if somebody's trying, it's like if you take the first 4 or 5 steps on your own and
Hmm.
you still struggling and you ask for help, I'll happily teach you. But if you just kind of sit there and expect me to teach you everything without you actually putting any work, like I'm not going to do it.
Right. Like
And
there's the difference between being like, hey, Asad, I have this issue with my Amazon FBA. Like I was making sales and like this part stopped working. Can you give me some advice? Versus, hey, can you make me millions of dollars on Amazon? Thank you.
right. Exactly. And it was funny because I wrote that tweet and some guy responded. He was like, so, I don't know, some snarky comment like that, like interesting remark from somebody who has a $500 course in their bio. And I was gonna respond to that, and I don't think I wrote anything up, but I was like, let me go come back to this guy, and then I didn't, and I was like, there's no need
Yeah.
for it, there's no reason for it. But yeah, I think the best example is my old tweets from like 2-3 years ago. I read some of those, and they're pretty cringe because I was definitely pandering to the Twitter market, the e-com Twitter market of the
Oh,
time,
dude, yeah. I read
and
some of my stuff from. Oh, jeez. That is a good way to. That's a good way to show how much you've grown. Is just go back 3 years in your tweets and just read and just be
yeah.
like, that was me at one point.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember reading it. There's some tweets I remember writing, and I know that at the time that I wrote them, I knew what was going to get engagement and what wasn't.
Hmm.
Um, and there's some tweets that are so vivid in my memory. I remember writing them and hitting post, and I know that it didn't feel completely right when I hit. Like I know that some part of me was like, "Why are you posting this? Don't post it."
Hmm.
But I did it anyway, and that's I think one of the most important things. It's like and that kind of goes back to like the introspection, where you stop and think inward and think about what you really want and actually like put that in action. You won't do all this stupid stuff. You won't do stuff for the public. You won't do stuff for other people. And that's what I think a lot of people end up doing nowadays.
One of my guilty pleasures with this podcast is the fact that I no longer have to niche my tweets because everyone in this cast is completely different.
Yeah.
and I attract like every market comes to my tweets now. I have like the fitness people, I have like the Hunter Drew's people, I have Alexander's people, I have, like the bodybuilder people, like everybody, business people, everybody comes. So I no longer have to think like, okay, gotta tweet about the video market and the blah blah. I don't even care about that anymore. I just tweet, and I've been getting the best engagement I've ever gotten in my life,
Right.
and a lot of it is just self-imposed. Honestly, it's like you're trying to tweet in a niche, and it's just unnatural. I think it's really unnatural, unless you're like, I guess a good idea would be like if you're like a fitness, like a personal trainer or something like that, and you're trying to grow your business. I get focusing on, you know, you know, driving towards your personal trainer business. But if you're like a young guy and you're kind of like you're just starting out and you're feeling around things, like the way to make an impression is not to tweet the platitudes that everybody else wants you to tweet. It's to tweet, what do you have? What do you have that's different?
Yeah, it's an important lesson. And I think it applies to life too,
Hmm.
even beyond Twitter, because if you are constantly talking about or tweeting about even just one thing, like that could be your specific thing, that could be what you specialize on and whatnot. There's certain people who are, I think that it, in some ways, it's almost a superpower if you're just so intently like all about one thing. Because most people, vast majority of people, don't have that. Like Bobby Fischer, the
I
chess
remember.
player, was like, he was just, there was nothing else in his mind. Like his mind was all chess. That's all he cared about.
I remember they were like, what do you think about the breaking of the Berlin Wall? He's like, what the fuck does that have to do with chess?
Right, exactly. And I'm trying to think about like who else was it? There's a bunch of examples. If you read there's a Malcolm Gladwell's book. It's one of the famous ones. Not Blink. I don't know, but it's the one that he talks about the law of success in, where he's like the 10,000 hours thing. That's where like that whole thing comes from, where he studied that.
Yeah.
There's certain people that it's like whatever they do, they're so obsessed with it. Like Travis Barker is so obsessed with drumming, and he
Mm.
could just do that every day for the rest of his life and wouldn't care. But most people don't have that, so it's like most people are going to have a little bit more to what they do to their life and everything. And even if you have those one or two things, you got to look at how that applies to everything else. You got to like take those, like there's anything that you do can teach you lessons about life, and life can teach you lessons about anything.
Mhm.
So those types of people, you have those specialties, but um you can't just be talking about that. You gotta go a little bit beyond that, because it's not relatable. It's not anything worth, like, you're gonna be that person that nobody wants to talk to. And I think people don't realize that, because people don't realize that until they kind of deal with someone like that in person or in real life. um I grew up in like a very kind of like anally orthodox Muslim community, to the
Mm.
point where it was like they're like purists. It was like it wasn't even orthodox. It was like it was bad. But I was around so many people, and some of them in my own family, who like all they talk about is Islam. That's all they talk about. Like I could be talking about, I don't know, I could be talking about fucking Elon Musk, and they'll find some way to tie it to us. Like they'll find some way to tie electric cars to. It's like it's just stop. Like there's no, like, you're grasping at, but it's like when you deal with someone like that, you realize like this is fucking annoying. And so you kind of, that's one thing where you learn. It's like just live your life as, a human being, and understand that there's more going on.
Right.
Um, and try to provide your own unique value to the situation.
I think that's a big problem. Is that a lot of people just aren't living. Like they're not doing things. And the one thing that they are doing is not super interesting, and that's why they're not. That's why they sound like a platitude bot, because they don't have anything to draw from their own life. They can't craft a story. They can't, relay an experience that they had. They just have to think like, okay, what's the most abstracted version of what I'm doing right now? Okay, how can I turn this into a value tweet?
Right. Yeah. I don't know what his name is, but his name might be Use, but I think his Twitter at is like Use XP or something like
Oh,
that.
he's on this cast. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. So I follow him. I followed him for some time, and I think I have his tweet screenshotted in my phone. But he just hit it perfectly. He's like, if I want to if I want to, he's like, if I want to produce good content, I can learn how to write better, or I can live dangerously. And he's like, which one do you think is going to have more value? And that's exactly it. Where it's like, if you live, like, if you simply live your life, and you actually go out and do things, like, if like like reading and whatnot gives you knowledge, but I think that when you go out into the world and you actually do things and challenge yourself, that's where wisdom comes from. I don't think wisdom can come from reading, and
Mm-mm.
that's basically the same thing right here, where it's like people think that they people just sit and kind of think like, oh, how could I write this? How can I get engagement?
Yeah.
As opposed to like, go actually do something. Go do something that's very challenging, and just kind of reflect on it. You might learn stuff, you might not. You might learn stuff that you can't put into words.
I think that right there underlines a big problem we got going on right now in the West, where we got a lot of kids that aren't living dangerously, and we got a lot of adults that don't have wisdom because they didn't live dangerously. So you have older adults who they're physically they physically declined, and they haven't been mentally upgrading themselves, so they're just useless. And then you have kids that are, churned out through the school system and whatnot. They're physically wrecks, and like they're too scared to take an action to go off and do their own thing and scourge their way in the world.
Yeah, everything's kind of become, and I don't want to knock where we are as a society, because things have become better, things have become safer, I guess you would say, and more more kind of streamlined, which is good. That's what everybody strives for. That's what everybody aims for. Every like, that's the first thing humans do when they settle somewhere, when they like that's the natural progression of life for humans. So it's not that I don't like the idea of saying like oh, like, we need this, like we need something bad to happen. Like, no, why the fuck? Like, I would so much rather live right now than if someone's like, hey, do you want to live right now or go back and be born in like 1955? And be like, why the fuck? There's no fucking way I want to do that.
Yeah.
And there's some benefits. There were some benefits to that. There's benefits to each, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that the problem is you can have a safe, streamlined way of living, but people should kind of still be challenged in some way. And that the whole thing with the way that the West is now, it's just like, people just aren't challenged. Like they became so soft, like even to the point where like kids don't have to do. I don't know what it's like now, but I know that as I was finishing school, less and less. I used to volunteer for like elementary schools and whatnot. They were just eliminating like anything that was difficult. Like they were eliminating physical education, and like state testing was like ridiculous. I think like
what was PE like for you? You remember?
When I was in like elementary school?
Yeah, elementary, middle school. Like how many days was it?
Elementary school, I think it was like 4 or 5 days a week. It was constant.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, for me, and when I was in elementary school, it was every Thursday, just once for 45 minutes. That was it.
Wow. That's nuts.
Yeah. And I don't even know what's happening now. Like I live like 3 minutes from my old elementary school. And I've driven by that thing, nearly every day of my life. And they, after the whole school shooting craze in the past 10 years and whatnot, they've built like huge fences around the whole thing. They've like safetied up the playground. So like weird. They just made the whole thing like a clown world hellhole. It's so strange. It's so strange. Like kids need to go and like hurt themselves and jump off things and run and be outside and yell at each other and stuff.
Yeah, it like you have to. Kids need to get like, kids need to be physical. Kids need to run around and do all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think like one of the worst, that stupid Gillette commercial that came out last year.
Yeah.
The people were like tripping about all that kind of stuff. The one thing that stuck out to me in that commercial that really pissed me off was like all that other stuff. I was like, I didn't like whatever, but I think the worst one was like there's like families grilling, like there's some little barbecue or something like that, and like these two boys who are probably like 8-9 years old are like wrestling and like throwing each other around, and the dad runs over and pulls them apart. He's like, this isn't how we treat people. I'm like, what kind of bullshit is that, dude? Like they're kids, they're boys having fun. Like the amount, like it's not like you don't want to, like, obviously you want to stop if something traumatic is happening, but
Yeah.
you gotta let kids mess around and get dirty and get physical and do stupid shit. Like I think it was like 4 or 5, and my brother and I were messing around like wrestling, and I just kicked him off the, like, I didn't mean to do this at all, but I kicked him off the bed, and he landed like all fucked up and broke his collarbone at like 9 or 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And it was bad. It wasn't anything like I was happy about, but it was just kind of one of those things where it's like you take that away, and it's like he was fine. Like, it's better for him to have broken it than to break it when he's fucking 30.
Yeah.
But it also just kind of, that for me was like this sense of like competitiveness and like this, like just being just like just kind of this fierce competition or whatever.
Well, that's what brothers are. You know, you have your brother there to, you know, you're both trying to grow up. You're both trying to grow up the world. So you're constantly testing each other. You're constantly, backing each other, biting at each other's heels, getting in direct conflict and whatnot. And the thing is, like, that's super healthy. That's extremely healthy, because when you go out into the, when you all graduate and you go out for separate ways and whatnot, you come back, like, you're not going to be beating the shit out of each other when you guys are like 25, but that bond is going to be so tight,
Yeah.
so tight. Like, if your brother called you right now and he like really needed a place to stay, like, I bet you'd be like, come right now, no issues.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Like, there's nothing that I wouldn't do for my brothers. And part of it is kind of that, like, it is kind of that bond of like tension, of conflict. And it's kind of interesting because like a couple years ago, I went to Europe with one of my friends, and there's supposed to be 5 of us on this trip originally.
Mm-hmm.
And one by one people drop out, and it was just like me and like my one of my closest friends that were going. And I was like, I'm still down. He was like, yeah, I'm down too, fuck it. So neither of us has traveled overseas without our family before. So we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We ended up spending way more money than we needed to, and like booking Airbnbs and this and that. And we like decided we were gone for like almost 3 weeks, like 20 days, I think, maybe 18, 19, like, I don't know, but almost 3 weeks. And we decided to, like, I think we went to like 7 countries, and like, that's not a good idea at all. And we ended it at like one of the biggest EDM festivals in the world. So it's like we traveled Europe for 2 weeks, and then we went to, like, we ended it there. And I think like at one point, a couple days before the festival, we were together nonstop, 24 hours a day for like however long at this point. And I was getting fucking fed up with his bullshit, and I could tell he was getting fed up with mine. And then like we kind of got into it. Like we get to Amsterdam, we check in, and then like we got into it, and like we didn't fight, but we were like getting like arguing and kind of like talking shit to each other and like almost yelling at each other. And then I was like, fuck. I was like, dude, fuck it, I'm going to the bar. Like, don't fucking talk to me. And I'm down there for maybe 30, 40 minutes. And I'm like, I'm just like, fuck it. I don't want to deal with any of that shit. He comes down, and I was talking to the bartender. He just walks up. He was like, yo, is this guy bothering you? And he just starts fucking around. And instantly it was like all that tension, everything was just gone.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, part of it too. Cause it's like, you have like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just live in this safe, cushy bubble or whatever. Part of it is like conflict actually does end up bringing people together, just being honest and being raw.
Yeah.
And you end up being closer afterward. So
yeah, it was a lot better that happened, probably, because if you just let things simmer and you're just like, everything's fine, we're all good here, everything's good, right?
Yeah.
And then like I bet like 2 weeks later it would have had a blow up. Everything would have,
oh yeah,
words would have been spilled that could have never been picked up again, and that would have been the end of it.
Yeah,
it's 100%. Good to I've heard of this method before, where it's, you need to have, I forgot what it was. Like, it was a philosophical term using conservatory. Fucking hell, I cannot speak right now. Conservation vocabulary, where you do controlled burnings over time instead of having the one burning that wipes everything out. Intentional controlled burnings, right? You want to have those intentional conflicts. You want to have those intentional scraps, competitions. You want to have the banter going, so you don't just end up going at each other's throats and building all that stuff up, because we're imperfect, right? We're imperfect people. We have our issues, And if we keep our issues with others inside, it's just going to blow up eventually. But if we put them out, and maybe we put out filtered, right? Comedy, little quips, punches here and there, just stuff like that, like filtering it in that way where it's like it's playful, it's competitive and whatnot, then everybody gets along way better in the long run.
Yeah, because it's more it's just more honest overall, and it's more raw in that sense, and that's what you need. Like that's what you need, like between homies, between brothers.
Well, think about the word. You want to get along, right? You're doing it for a long time.
Right.
You're doing it for it's not a short period of time. You're trying to keep everything all good. You want to keep these people around for a while, and so you got to have these little tiny scraps to keep things going and keep things fun.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of funny because like the same thing applies to, you see it with like relationships and whatnot. And it's super important there too. I had like a buddy of mine, my college roommate, he told me that when his parents got divorced, it totally blindsided his dad. His dad had no idea. Like he was totally like, when his mom said that, he was like, just couldn't even believe it. And then once he started dealing with it, there was like a list of like 20 years worth of shit that his mom hated, that was all coming out, and his like, it just sounded pretty bad for his dad. But the whole point of it was like, it's the same thing here, where it's like it all just came out at once, as opposed to like, the controlled, calculated situation. And it kind of, and the interesting thing there too is that it comes down to maturity, just overall, because it takes a person being mature and vulnerable to be like, when something is actually wrong, it takes a person being mature and vulnerable to be like, yo, I don't like this. And
definitely,
it's like, we got it, like, can you stop, or can we talk about this, whatever, because it's like, I'm not a fan of this stuff. And that's when if you really have a friend, or like how deep that relationship goes. Because if somebody gives a shit, they're going to be like, they're going to talk it out, and they're going to make an effort to change that. And if they don't, then it's like, all right, well, fuck this person, like fuck this dude, because
usually, right there. A good friend will be like, if you say, hey man, I don't like that, let's not do that anymore, or hey, I don't like the direction this thing's going, they will take your input, and they will act on it, and because they value you,
right,
value you as a person, and they're not just trying to use you as a that a lot of friends are just means to an end. Like when I was in high school, right, I realized coming out of it that a lot of the stoners and like the people that just love their weed and whatnot, they were only friends because of the weed. That was it. And it was because they could talk about it. Obviously the weed is, it's a shared interest. So it's a shared thing to talk about. You can talk about getting high. Oh, I got high that one time. Oh yeah, remember we got high. There's the supply thing where like, oh, this guy always has weed, so we can always go to him. But once you take that away, it's like, what do you even have?
Right.
What's even there? I remember I went to a dude's house in January. I used to hang out with him in high school. And I got there, and I was just there for like an hour, and I realized like, I'm not friends with this guy. Like it was just because we used to smoke together. It's not because of any real connection.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you notice that. And I think I think Ed tweeted something at the start of this whole quarantine that he said he's like, people are going to realize they don't have friends, they have drinking buddies. Most of their friends don't really like them. They don't really like them. They don't even like themselves. And then there was a fourth one. And I was like, that's so true. And I think a lot of people are going to realize that. And a lot of people are probably going to ignore it. But it's a valid point. And it's like, not to discredit the things that you have in common with, like, because there's some things that run very deep, and it's like, well, you might only have that thing in common, but it's so important to the two of you that like you bonded over it and you know each other deeper. But and I think this kind of goes back to the intimacy thing, where it's like people are afraid to get like intimate and to get close with people. And I actually kind of realized that during this whole thing too. I was like, most of my friends are people that I party with. And they're dope. They have my back and whatnot, but I was like, I don't know that. I was like, and I told them, I was like, we're not that close. And they all kind of thought about it, and they're like, that's true. We're really not that close. And it's kind of interesting, because it's like, all right, now there's going to be like an effort to kind of go deeper with it.
Yeah, and then you got to see, like, can we go deeper, or was this just like a surface level thing?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like the social glue that kind of holds things together. It's kind of an interesting thing once you realize it, and you got to figure out like what are you actually going to do about it.
definitely, brother. Well, Asad, it was great having you on Arthaus. Do you have anything you'd like to say just to close things off? Some words of advice, some wisdom, an email list sign up that you want to get people so you can scam them with Amazon products and just courses, just 40 emails a day about buying your e-courses and all that?
Yeah, no, I actually haven't been doing. So I haven't been doing the newsletter game for a little while. But I mean, I would just say I'll just plug my Twitter, which I think my @ is ASAAADUDE.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's like a saw,
What?
dude.
Wait, hold up. No. It's
It's
Amazon
not.
FBA guy.
Oh no, I changed it a
Right?
while back.
No. Wait. No, what the fuck it is? Oh, wait, no, that's, what the fuck? Okay, hold on.
So somebody made a fake. As soon as I jumped off.
Oh, no. I tagged that guy in the title.
Oh, did you?
God. Wait, that's who I've been messing with.
Have you been tweeting that guy?
I've been messaging that guy.
Oh man, is he responding?
No. I was like, when we getting on the cast? What we gonna do this? Okay.
I wonder how many DM. I don't know who that is. As soon as I jumped off mine, some guy took it, and I was like, "All right, cool."
Weren't you just Assad?
I know. So some other guy has that, and I've been trying to fucking get it. He hasn't tweeted in like 3 years, and I sent him an email and I sent him a message on LinkedIn. He won't fucking give it to me.
Dude.
So I'm trying to. I feel so.
He has a website too. He has a website. You can go on there. Send him a contact info. Hey man.
Yeah. I'm gonna. That I should have taken that on Twitter like 2012. I still remember looking it up, and nobody had it, and I don't know why I didn't fucking grab it. And then ASAD.com. I was gonna buy that domain. I didn't fucking buy it, and then somebody else bought it. Like
You're blowing it.
I'm fucking up. Like the other thing is like any combination of a 3-letter domain is like worth so much money right now, just because they've all been bought up for so long. Like the guy that bought, I think it was like 2002. Some guy just randomly bought FB.com, and I think Facebook bought it from him for like $5 million.
That I was thinking about that. Like somebody's gonna make a side hustle course where it's like buying domains and reselling it later. Because you could probably just smash in some characters on your keyboard and buy a domain for $10, and then some like Silicon Valley dude's gonna come to you like, "Hey, I need that for my company. I'll pay you $150K." You'll be like, all right.
Yeah. No, just come up with like some wacky names. That's like Mark Cuban actually used to do that. Mark Cuban owns, I don't know how many domains. That guy owns probably like thousands of domains at this point. It's all digital real estate. I think there was some interview where he talked about it. He's like, yeah, I've been buying domains since the 90s. And I just, if somebody wants it, I'll sell it to them. So,
that's sick. It's absolutely gangster. Well, follow Asad at his @ that, not Asad and not Amazon FBA guy, but the real Asad, not the poser. Follow him there, everyone. And I mean, you know me. I'm the guy streaming this whole thing. You know where to get it, and you buy my podcast, so you should know my @ by now. But this is Arthaus. This has been with Asad, and we'll see you guys later.